Welcome to the Heart to Heart Spiritual Direction Podcast with Father Michael Stala, Spiritual Advisor of Hope's Garden. At Hope's Garden, it is all about the heart of Christ the Bridegroom, and how His love is healing our hearts, marriages, and families. You can learn more about the Bridegroom at hopesgarden.com.
My name is Father Michael Stala. I am the Spiritual Director for Hope's Garden, and I have a message, a witness even, that I'd like to give to the men who are listening to this podcast. When I was 17 years old, I went on a wilderness retreat. It was a retreat that I got to choose out of all the retreat options available in my high school. This one I thought was the coolest because we got to go camping. And I went out to Daniel Boone National Forest. I'd never been camping before. And in fact, I had never been away from the city. Not in the sense of the wilderness that I now found myself. As we were traveling around, we found ourselves in a remote place. And our director said, "All right, everybody, find a little spot where you could just pray by yourself." I found the spot that was like overlooking a valley. I could see the sun was setting. No one else was around. As the sun set, the stars came out. They were always there, but the brightness of the sun had made them invisible to me. But now, without the lights from the city, I could see more stars than I had ever seen in my whole life. It seemed like every inch of the sky was covered. As I sat there, not even sure how I was to pray, a prayer came out of my mouth. Feeling as small as I have ever felt under the vastness of the universe, I said, "God, who am I that you would even pay attention to me?" I felt smaller than an ant, and God would be more massive than anything I could even imagine. It was at that moment I heard a voice. To this day, I don't know if I heard it with my ears or with my heart, but it was as clear as any voice I had heard. It said, "You are my beloved." Shocked, I looked around to see if anyone was around. Realizing I was still alone, I slowly looked up to the stars. Whoa, did that just happen? Did the Almighty communicate with me? There's a moment in the Bible in which the Holy Spirit descends upon Jesus at his baptism. God the Father says, "Behold, my beloved." How is it that God could say the same words to me? I'm a sinner, even back then. How is it that God could look past all my faults? But perhaps my smallness included those failings. From God's heights, He looked at me as just a person, not the mistakes. And He loved me. His love defined who I am. You know, if I was more handsome, God would not be impressed. If I was smarter, it would still be ridiculously insignificant compared to God's knowledge. If I was wealthier, it would be completely unrelated to anything God could need. So there really was nothing about me, great or small, that I could see that was lovable, except who I am, my very being, not something about me, me. If it was something about me, I might lose it. If it was my height or the color of my hair, these things change over time. But my being, He loves me for who I am. Not what I do, not what I've done, not attributes, me. And that becomes who I am. I am the beloved of the Lord. It changes the way I do things now. Sometimes I have those doubts just like everyone else. How can you be a priest? How can you change bread and wine into the body and blood of Christ? I can't. How can you stand there with any kind of sincerity and tell people that they should be holy saints when you yourself fall so short? How is it that you can pretend like the grace and power of God might extend through your being to help heal and forgive? I don't have any answers to that except this: I am his beloved. I know this to be true. He told me, and he never lies. It is the essence of who I am. And all the other things, I don't understand. But I know this: it is foundational to my self-understanding. And it allows me to do things I otherwise would be too frightened to do. I would feel too small to do. It empowers me to bring his love to others. I don't think he loves me more than he loves you. I think you're probably his beloved just as much as I am. Why hasn't he told you that? I've asked him that many times. Why did you give me this message, and why didn't you give it to others? I mean, I didn't really need it. I was a person of faith. I am a person of faith. And yet you gift me with this voice, this reassurance. Why don't you give it to them? The only answer I could really find is that it was my job now. He told me so that I would tell you. He doesn't need to tell everyone, but to those who receive, more is expected. And so I am expected to remind you of who you are. You too are his beloved.